Hello, hello, Yvonne Nobles here. I am so excited to have you join me for this information session about cruise control and why it's so vital to unlock our paths to financial freedom. I am actually a mindset coach and success strategist, and I am on a mission to help women around the globe dig deep into what makes them function from an integral spot, what embodies awareness and living at our next level. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and dive in. I did promise that we're going to spend some time looking at elements that can empower you to get closer to freedom. Now, the thing about freedom is it definitely operates on several levels. Of course, this one is about finance, but it also opens the doors to emotional freedom, to time freedom, to location freedom. All of those things are so, so vital. And when they work in tandem, that's when you can live life to the max. So, one thing that we're going to be talking about today, for all those who are taking notes, you want to make sure that you position yourself to break free from any limiting cycles, whether those are self limitations or those that are placed on you by demands and constraints at work, in the family, and in different social settings. So, again, there's the element of breaking free. Then it's very important to prioritize your dreams. And so, we're going to take a look back, go back through time, revisit childhood, and see where that disconnect may have happened and how we can reconnect. Lastly, because I'm a very big advocate of self care, we're going to talk about the importance of making sure that you embrace different means of self care. And, it's unfortunate that a lot of people think self care is selfish, but I venture to say it's the opposite. A lack of self care is so selfish because it doesn't give you an opportunity to show up fully for you or for those that depend on you. So, a little bit more background about me for those that aren't too acquainted. I've spent over 20 years in corporate America, and that was various Fortune 500 companies, various roles, a lot of management, getting others motivated to shine. And one thing I learned along that journey was many times we feel stuck. Sometimes we think, is this all there is? And no judgment on 9 to 5s, because I think that regardless of how you make your money, what you want to do is make sure it's something that you're passionate about, something that gets you excited to wake up in the morning. And then when you go to sleep at night, you are assured you gave it your all. So for different ones, there's going to be a different path about going about that. Many dream of owning their own business, and they're afraid to segue into doing that because they think about some of the things they may have to give up. Let's say the stability or the certainty of a check that shows up like clockwork. And to that, I always say, look at other pieces that play in. Are you happy? And if you find that you're not, do a little dig. And, that's going to take some introspection and identifying what is the hiccup? Where are the holdups? You probably noticed that I am in my car. I just want to put out there, living here in South Florida is awesome when the weather cooperates. My plan today was to come at you from the beach. However, we have some high chances of rain. So that you didn't see me running between raindrops halfway through this, I'm sitting in the car, plan B, right? The show must go on. But again, I am so, so excited to have an opportunity to help you tap into that awareness, to bring back the joy, and make sure that you're living in a way that maximizes your potential and gets you to a place that you can do the same for others. Remember, it's all about paying it forward. So during my journey through corporate America, I have to share, there was a moment, this was living in the heart of New York City, which, by the way, I mortified. I really had my mom in so much fear when I came home one day and said, I'm just going to go live in New York by myself as a young woman. And this is in the early 2000s. I felt I needed a new adventure. Fortunately, things did go well. Landed a job that was paying 6 figures, but I wasn't happy. And so it then became clear it's not always about the money. There are other things that play in. The key is to find a way to make the money and be happy. So that's why all these factors come into play. I fast forward a few years, find myself newly married, very happy. And because the job that I had at that time in South Florida had gone through some significant layoffs, hubby and I decided, let's try New York. However, this time around, I was working into the wee hours of the morning. He would actually come from Queens to the city to get me home safe, sometimes at midnight, 1 o'clock in the morning, which to some might sound, that's not too tough. If you're making good money, it's worth it. But there's a matter of quality over quantity. So we have to take a break, and I confide in a dear friend, this is crazy. I don't understand why they're taking advantage of me. And I'm working so many hours and I'm so stressed out. And that's when he held up the mirror. Why are you letting them? And I don't know the last time that you've had an aha moment where you have a breakthrough and you realize that you are in the driver's seat, metaphorically speaking, that everything that's happening, you have a choice. And so I want to grant you permission in this moment to take a deep breath, reflect on where you stand, and really start analyzing and accepting, what can I do differently in this moment? The rest of that story, as I went back home from the break and, I had a conversation with management and I said, listen, consider this my 2 weeks notice unless you give me clearance to pursue a different position that will not require and demand as much of me. To my shock, they let me go. They allowed me to get the other position, which, by the way, had more money, less stress. And I found out in hindsight that the position I had that was just like had me racking my brain and losing sleep, had my husband coming to keep me safe. They split it, not into two, but into 3 positions, which technically means they probably could have pushed it and stretched it into 4 or 5. But, it's all about saving money, right? That was such a huge lesson for me. My takeaway was stand up for what gives you fuller life. And sometimes you might be afraid of the outcome, but when you're courageous, when you're brave, things tend to go very well. One thing I can promise you is whatever you're striving for, it lives on the other side of fear. So just confront whatever fear you think might be holding you back, maybe limiting you. And if you're stuck as to exactly what that is, please, please get yourself a coach. Find a mentor, someone that you trust, that can do the hand holding, that can champion you and help you get an outside, fresh perspective so you don't stay stuck. I also want to share something that is not often spoken about in different rooms. The fact that when you see success, it was never overnight. This is something that likely took months, years, and plenty of help. It takes a village. So don't beat yourself up if you find it's taking longer than you'd like or longer than you'd expect. I've been through some horrendous situations in life. And whether that was going through heartrending divorce, where you feel you're never, ever going to breathe again, where you're crying every day and you just think there is no light at the end of the tunnel, where you're blaming yourself for decisions that you wonder if you would have made them differently, how things could have turned out. I've also been in homeless/houseless situations. And the key is to remember, when you are dedicated to something large, when your vision is huge, the decisions you make are not always going to be understood from the outside, but you don't want to lose sight of the vision. You don't want to give up on the dream, because think about it. Whatever company that is large, whatever someone that had a huge vision and they went for it, if you had a heart to heart, they'd likely share with you those difficult moments were frequent and highly unexpected, yet essential. I'm also going to share with you the element of not giving up on your dreams. You, again, are in the driver's seat. You cannot allow circumstances, especially the fact that they're so temporary, to rob you of what your birthright, your destiny is. So stay driven and be selective about who you choose to share those dreams and visions with, who has access to your energy, because all of those things play a very big role in making sure that you get to your final destination. And I can promise you, you're likely going to be blown away at how amazing, how much larger things turn out for you because you didn't give in. This actually moves us into the second element of prioritizing dreams. And within that are some of the tools that are essential to your success. Given that we have a short time span together, I'm not going to go deep on all of them, but that acronym DREAMS actually breaks out a roadmap for you to get from here to where you want to be. So we'll start with the D for dedication. You've likely been encouraged when you're having a rough patch to remember your why. And by that, it comes down to really embracing, celebrating, understanding that if you're doing something big, it's likely involving more people than just you. The impact that you're going to bring to all of those who are involved is more tremendous than you can imagine. And there's something called the ripple effect, wherein essentially you're in a position to make sure that people you might not meet directly benefit from your hard work, from your sacrifice, and from what you're building. So stay in focus, stay connected to the reason why you're doing what you're doing. And that will be so pivotal to helping you get past any rough moments, any choppy waters, so you can get through to the ultimate destination. R is for risk. Let me ask you, are you a risk taker? If so, how'd you get there? Probably because you realized that the opportunity in front of you was giving you a bigger and grander outcome than staying where you were. And this is a very difficult lesson for some people to encompass because most of us like to stay in our safety zone. It's called safety for a reason. Many people like to embrace comfort. And it's said that humans typically are creatures of habit. But when you look at those that have accomplished big things, they have something in common. They stepped outside of the safety zone. They didn't limit themselves and think, this is the way it's always been, or this is how my family, my culture, my nation, my generations have done. Why should I be an agent of change? The bigger question is, why not? What is possible when you start thinking, dreaming, feeling differently? And mind you, the key is it doesn't stop with a dream. You can't keep it at a thought. It has to become something that motivates you to take action. Because until you change what you're doing, things will stay the same. So likely you've heard the formula of be, do, have. A lot of people say, I will make a change when I have XYZ. So whether that's a certain number of dollars in the bank, a certain number of social friends and connections that can help you make things happen, or perhaps the perfect circumstance. Once you reach a certain age, whatever that thing is that you were waiting on, I'm going to challenge you. Stop waiting. Go for it. Of course, you want to be wise along the way, but realize failure is not a death sentence. It's simply a lesson. It's a stepping stone, and it's going to be essential to you growing larger than you can imagine. Once you take on the identity of what you want to be, then you start doing the things that are necessary. So it's not about waiting for those things to show up. It's becoming that individual first, taking the necessary steps, and then just knowing that everything that is yours is coming for you. So be ready, get ready, celebrate all the small wins along the way because they're adding up, and you're going to be able to look over your shoulder and realize you did that. It reminds me of a time that I took a trip to Jamaica with mom and some friends, going back almost 20 years, I believe. And I was helping some of the local volunteers in their ministry work. And we had started at the top of this huge mountain. Funny story about me, I am deadly afraid of heights. Had I known that in advance, this story would not turn out the same way. But a couple hours later, I was told, look behind you. And I gasped in shock because now I could see the full picture. I had just navigated this really big mountain without knowing it. And that's exactly what happens when you reach big dreams. It's not about limiting yourself to thinking this step in front of me isn't essential. It's about knowing that at the end, you're going to be able to look back and you're going to be able to celebrate everything that you've done in tandem with where you were trying to go. Another thing with dreams is when you look at the letter E, energy. Take a moment to do a quick self assessment. How have you been feeling lately? On a scale of 1 to 10, where do you gauge your energy? And I'm not just talking physically, like the ability to move around and to do what you want to do. What about your mental energy? How are your thoughts? What about your emotional energy? Do you feel up to some of the challenges that are on your plate? Is it something that you think, I just don't know how I'm going to get it done? Wouldn't it be amazing to wake up every day over the moon, full of energy? So much so that you got to skip around, dance it out. You don't know what to do with what you deem to be excess energy. Well, our third step is all about how to go about doing that. Self-care. You'll notice we didn't go into the A and the M. The S stands for success. But for anyone who wants to figure out the rest of dreams and how to go about capitalizing on those and turning them into reality, I'm going to invite you now, get in touch with me. I'm going to give you my email so that myself or a member of my team can reach out and assist you in making those dreams real. Because what's the point of a dream if it never comes about? So you want to send a note to New You Wow Coach, just like it sounds. New, Newyouyou, New You Wow, WOW, coach at gmail.com. And we will be sure to get back to you ASAP. The third component, other than breaking free from these vicious cycles of unfulfilling work and just limitations that we're placing on ourselves or that society places upon us, as well as prioritizing dreams and stepping into a larger version of yourself, the third step is self-care. So, time for introspection again. When's the last time you scheduled time and took time out for you? Was it yesterday? Last week? Last month? Last year? Now, the reason why this is so vital is because just as we have blood pumping through our veins, we can't live without it. If we're going to function at peak, we have to take care of ourselves. The beauty of this is there's no one size fits all. Everyone has different motivators, different things that excite them and inspire them. And you want to find that and start creating a list of the things that brighten your day, of things that give you the necessary energy to move from one project to the next. Because the way that you show up will always determine the outcome. So, for example, maybe you love listening to music. Have you expanded the number of genres that you listen to? When you can embrace taking something you love, something old, and merging that with something that you learn about, something new, that's where magic happens. Let's say that you love reading. Do you always read the same type of book? What if you started expanding those horizons? Maybe you branch into nonfiction and self-help instead of always fiction or romance. Whatever the case, look at each opportunity of self-care as a means of building yourself into something grander. Because here's the thing, you think of a sequoia tree, this massive, giant thing. It starts with the little seed. It takes starting. And unfortunately, because we're tangible and we're so built in and attached and connected to the physical, we forget that what you see is not necessarily what something is becoming. The inability to grasp that what's happening beneath the surface keeps a lot of people trapped. So, vision is going to be so key and getting beyond where you are so you can go where you're supposed to be. One word of warning as you go through this process, avoid the emotional quicksand, where one moment you're on top of the world, and the next thing you know, everything is abysmal, everything is condemned, everything looks upside down. If you stay there, it's difficult to get out. The longer that you stay there, the harder it is to climb back up. Notice I didn't say it's impossible, because as long as you don't give up, it's feasible. But this is where choosing the right circle, entering the right rooms, sitting at the right tables becomes very essential. And I just want to take a moment to celebrate. Your background has nothing to do with your future. It doesn't matter where you've been, what you've done, or what hand life has appeared to hand you, because the thing that is not known is what will tomorrow bring. Your past chapters are complete. Turn the page. You'll see it's a fresh slate. So you are indeed capable of doing more, being more, and thus having more than you've ever imagined. Partner with someone who's going to pour into you and help you achieve the vision of something grand. One particular form of self care that I want to talk about and that I'm so excited to share with all of you is travel. So, some of you may know I grew up an Army brat. I was 6 years old when I arrived in Germany for the first time. And little did I know that the very first day on German soil, I would encounter a being, a phenomenal person that would end up being in my life much later, but for whom I'm so grateful. My dad said, I'm going to introduce you to a family that lives upstairs. I'm great friends with the father. I think you all are going to get along just fine. So happy to know that we already have friends waiting on us. We head up, we hang out, and there I see the cutest 9-year-old boy. Little did I know he was all about trouble. We were playing hide and go seek. He invites me to come hide in the closet, lays a big smooch on me. Yes, I got in trouble. I don't know if it was his sister or one of my brothers that ratted us out. I get in trouble when it was his idea, but so many years later, it was worth it. Our mothers remained best friends. And 25 years later, I am happy to share he became my husband, my forever love. And I'm just so grateful to have the support that is essential to continue morphing into something more. And when you have someone that you can pour into that can share the journey with you, that is awesome. But given that I grew up an Army brat, my dad served for 13 years. Those that are familiar with military life know that every year, 2 years, you're in a new spot. I'm not talking a new town, I'm talking a new state, a new country. And I quickly started to embrace travel gives you a means to step outside of any mental or emotional or physical limits and see things in a different light. In fact, it was during my second stay in Germany that many of my friends were Holocaust survivors. They helped mold my view of what resiliency looks like. That even though you might get mistreated, or you might be a victim of hate, or you might be in atrocious circumstances, you can still smile. You can still have joy. You can hold vision and space that others that are outside looking in have no comprehension how it's possible. That spirituality can play a giant role in getting you past the bleakest situations. So I'm excited to let you all know that I have opened up an option, cruise control. It's a way in which you can regain control of where you are in your life right now and move into a place of embodiment where for 7 days I kidnap you and I get you on a cruise. This is not your typical cruise experience, by the way. I have to share the reason I'm so passionate about it is for 5 years, I spent time in the cruise industry. And it's so ironic. A dear friend of mine who said, I think you'd be great at this. I thought she was nuts because I'd never been on a cruise. But she's like, come through, interview, see if you can sell these. I think you'd be good. She was onto something. I took the drive down from West Palm Beach to the port of Miami. I was hired the same day I interviewed. And there was some grueling training involved, but I am happy to say that in a few short months, I became one of the top producers. And some people were veterans. They've been there for 10 years, 20 years. And when everyone asked, how did you do it? I explained, it's all about connecting. It's all about listening to everyone else's journey first and then painting a picture of how things can improve. So that served me very well during the pandemic because obviously, as you know, the cruise industry came to a standstill. And yet I had the opportunity to still speak to former clients and help coax them through difficult times, whether that meant losing their jobs, their livelihoods, their loved ones. Everyone's life was topsy-turvy. And so now I'm committed to helping people break through to a new you, break through to new levels, and do so without taking years or making it more difficult for themselves. So, case in point, my newest offering puts you on a cruise. And the reason I think that is so vital is just think for a moment, what changes for you if you escape your day-to-day grind and you have a full week to reset, to renew, to connect with other powerhouses that are on a similar journey? It's been said that if you're an entrepreneur, that is one of the loneliest roads because you don't have the water cooler talk, you don't have the meetings. There's even for those that are doing remote work now, the environment has changed where what you had as support and what became routine is now different. And a lot of times you're carrying that burden of company and friendship, and you just don't know where to turn. So, what happens when you get together with others on a similar journey and you start celebrating all of the amazing things that you can accomplish in collapsed time? So, what would take you a year, 6 months, you can do in just 7 days. Case in point, going back to my first cruise after the pandemic, and I manifested that journey from 3 years prior. I rushed home excited, told my hubby, they're building a brand new ship and we're going to be on it and we're going to be on our first suite at sea. Yes, it took 3 years, but it all came to pass. And to celebrate, I set before myself a goal. I wanted to start a book. I wasn't sure if I'd finish it, but I'm happy to say for those that came to this event, you likely noticed on the banner, there's a book that's visualized, there's a visual. That is actually Your First Millions Already in the Bank, an immersive guide to achieving a wealth mindset. It was written on board that cruise in 7 days. And it serves as an opportunity for you to get to know a little bit more about me, but also for you to discover your own story. You see, there's journaling prompts so you can express gratitude and you can start looking to expand beyond your here and now and embrace that bigger things are just waiting for you if only you kick fear to the curb. Much easier said than done, but that's what this cruise experience is all about. The transformation that happens when you put yourself in a setting that lifts you up. So I'm not going to allow you to make your bed for 7 straight days. You're going to be catered to. You're going to be every whim that you can imagine taken care of. And another great thing, you don't even have to speak with the travel agent. I coordinate everything for you. It's as simple as you getting in touch, providing your name, date of birth, and any special requests. Pack your bag and show up and get ready for the adventure of a lifetime. It's not just the cruise itself, because I will admit the first cruise I went on was mind blowing. I went for the sake of the job. I waited a full year. I finally got vacation time. And my husband was kicking and screaming, "You're not getting me on a boat." before it ended, he was like, "When are we doing this again?" So it's such an amazing experience, but you're going to be catered to from the standpoint of you're not cooking. Every possible culinary request is provided by five-star Michelin chefs. You're going to be able to relax either by poolside or because every day you get new scenery. You'll be visiting destinations that, you know, you'll be able to immerse yourself into and start embracing different identities, learning the local culture, and whether that's the food, the music, the arts and entertainment. There's just so much. The list goes on and on. So I've lowered the barriers of entry to this opportunity. What I mean by that is in the past, you had to have the resources to pay in full or make payments as you go. Well, I'm super excited to announce that for a minimal deposit, you can secure your spot for our next one. So if you're looking to join us in the spring, then you can go ahead and just do a minimal deposit, put yourself in line because we do have limited spots. And if you prefer not to use any of your resources at this time, well, I have financing available for those who qualify. So, such a beautiful opportunity to come and see what is waiting on the other side of fear for you. Let's collapse time together. Let's see what you can accomplish in just 7 days. So, what is the big thing, the big goal that you've been working towards and that you just keep pushing off? Why make your future self wait any longer? So, by way of recap, we want to make sure that when we're on this journey, on this path to unlocking not just financial freedom, but multiple levels of freedom, we make sure that we understand it's so essential to change our habits. Nothing changes unless you do. And that's going to involve some really deep digging. It's going to involve that you look deep into the mirror of what's happening in your life right now. And I'm going to warn you, when you start this journey, it may feel a little overwhelming because there's things you're not going to want to see. And that's okay. We have to allow room for grace. We have to make room for that self love so you can get past those hurdles and reach your next level. I say it's kind of like being in an elevator. You want to get to the penthouse at the top, but you don't shoot just up and get there in a second. It takes time. And every level that you go through, it's as if there's this glass ceiling. And the challenge is that glass ceiling, every level gets denser. So it's even more difficult to make the breakthrough. But I can assure you that as long as you keep going, you will win. It's all about the perseverance. So, first step, break free from any unfulfilling work, any self limitations, and any limitations placed on you, whether that's by friends and family, by work, by society. Don't let them hold you back from what is your birthright. Second important step, prioritize your dreams. You know, think back to when you were a child and you just knew when I grow up, I'm going to be. No one could tell you otherwise. So, what is it that can bring you joy? What will give you the most fulfillment? Instead of putting that on the back burner and saying, maybe one day, start reaching for it now. And finally, see the value of self care. It is the best gift that you can give, not only to yourself, but to everyone who depends on you. It takes many different forms and fashions. It is achievable and it's oh so worth it. So, for any of you that are looking to take advantage of our next opportunity to be on board a luxury cruise and to be poured into and to start reaching new heights that you never imagined, remember to reach out to me and my team at newuwowcoach@gmail.com. That's NEWYOUCOACH. Oh, I left the wow out. NEWYOUWOWCOACH at gmail.com. And we will follow up with you right away. Thank you so much for the opportunity to spend time with you, to pour into you, to give valuable information that can make such a difference. And if you have any friends or family, any acquaintances that you think would benefit from this information, I'm going to ask that you share it. Make sure they get in touch, mention your name so I can thank you personally. Wishing you all the very best and look forward to seeing you next time.